Hello again and welcome to Pearl Magazine. The Hong Kong government plans to regulate the sale and free distribution of disposable plastic tableware and hotel toiletries. Zella Chin reports on how businesses are preparing for the potential ban on single-use plastics and what this could mean for consumers.
Did I mention to you that we've upcycled 25% of this restaurant?
Serial entrepreneur Matt Reed is from the UK. His interest in alternatives to single-use plastics began with a film project in 2016, A Plastic Ocean.
Single-use plastics are not good. For the solution of a one-time use, it's here forever. Our oceans are getting clogged up with plastics, so it breaks down into microplastics, and then it gets eaten by fish, and then it works our way up. And now if you eat seafood, you are in essence eating the toxins of the bioplastics. And we're talking an enormous amount of plastic. It's not a small amount going into the oceans and therefore going into our food and affecting our health.
He opened this restaurant in Quarry Bay in 2022 with the goal of not using disposable plastics. Matt has a few criteria when looking for plastic alternatives.
The first thing is got to be certified to do what it is that it says it does, because there's a lot of misinformation, shall we say, around what products can and can't do and how does it work for the consumer. Because it's all very well if you get a product and then the consumer doesn't like it, or it leaks, or it doesn't hold the temperature. So you've got to make sure that you're not affecting the customer experience. And then, of course, we are in a business, so it can't be off the Richter scale in cost.
He uses these alternatives to single-use plastics.
Okay, so we have 3 different types of packaging for you here. This is a bowl that we use where we try and introduce circularity. So this can be used multiple times, but it's actually made from a byproduct of wheat production, so agricultural waste of wheat.
This is used for catering at events.
If you get a takeaway here, this is using bagasse. So this is a byproduct from the sugarcane industry. You can kind of see the fibrousness. So this is really a one-time use type sort of packaging. This is probably now the most common used compostable packaging that you can find.
And how long would it take to decompose?
This will decompose quite quickly. This is really is just fibers. The last is something new that we've just found, and we're testing these out. So this is made with oyster shells. So this is oyster powder and resin mixed together. Feels and looks just like the feeling of plastic, which is great.
It does, yes. So what is the most expensive here?
So from a pricing perspective, these are around $3 Hong Kong dollars. So, and by size, scaling up.
And you can use it all the time, these.
That's the thing.
Very sturdy.
So if you can use it more than once, then it becomes 1.5, and then it becomes less. So that's the key to that. These, depending on the size, start at around 1.5 Hong Kong dollars and scale up to $2 to $3, but with bigger containers. And these start at about 1 and finish at around 2.
But how does that compare to the plastic that most restaurants
Well,
use?
styrofoam that you had for lunch, that can be fractions of a dollar.
Fractions of a dollar,
Yeah.
like 20 cents maybe.
Yeah, possibly like 8 cents.
8 cents?
Yeah, it can be
Wow, so this is a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year, the government introduced a bill to the Legislative Council for regulation of disposable plastic tableware and other plastic products. Lawmakers will discuss and vote on the final bill by the beginning of 2024 at the earliest. In the first phase, restaurants will not be allowed to provide dine-in customers with single-use plastic containers nor cups. Also, restaurants will be prohibited from providing disposable plastic tableware, such as cutlery, straws, and plates. The government proposes that Phase 1 will begin 6 months after the passage of the bill. In Phase 2, restaurants will not be allowed to provide plastic containers nor cups for takeaway. Matt thinks it will be difficult for most restaurant operators to switch to non-plastic items if the ban on single-use plastics takes effect.
The general perception in the industry will be, this is annoying because it costs me more money. I think that's the sad reality. And the reality is that restaurants are really hard to make money. I mean, we were in a tight margin business before we start. We pay incredibly high rents. We've all been through some really rough, choppy years with COVID. There are a ton of challenges with inflation and rising staff costs and now rising packaging costs.
Jelly cups and they're traditional product of us.
Over in Foshan, Cecilia works at this 20-year-old food packaging supplier. It manufactures plastic packaging in the Shanghai area. And then, about 7 years ago, it began to develop alternatives to plastic products.
There's a client come to our office and they want the product use of non-plastic items. So they propose use the biodegradable items. At that time, biodegradable items is the supply is not that much. Even us, we need to go outside to search. Initially, just the one product, and now it's over 10, 20, and 30, and different sizes, different types, different shapes.
The company makes some biodegradable products and also sells plastic alternatives made by third parties. And occasionally, it will tailor-make a product for a client.
Traditionally, knife is a plastic. We developed a wood knife.
So that's like a cake knife?
Yeah, yeah. And this is thick, this is thin. And also the packaging, we use this is a paper wrap packaging, traditional, and there is PET coating inside. And we do not use it, and we use just purely the paper. Yeah. And for the candle, it's also purely a paper.
Cecilia, is the wooden knife better than the plastic knife?
From environmental aspect, it's yes. But for a wood knife, after you use it, it will decay and return to the environment.
She says high-end clients like hotels embrace non-plastic products, but small, medium enterprises still prefer plastic.
For example, like the lunch box. And one example like this, it's the 6-pound plastic one. And it's not easy for them to change the biodegradable 6-pound lunchbox. So normally we provide quotation to them, and finally they still choose the plastic.
And why is that? How much cheaper is plastic?
Plastic one around 2.5. And for this one, around $3 per set.
The company has to sell the non-plastic items at a higher price because it costs more to make.
For sustainable items like paper and wood and also biodegradable items, the material cost is more expensive than the plastic, around 20 to 30%.
The packaging supplier will continue to sell items made with all types of materials to meet their clients' needs, while it waits for the bill to be passed. Over in Jordan, this hotel has been pursuing environmentally friendly policies since 2009 to qualify for sustainability certification for the tourism industry, called EarthCheck.
So Stephanie, what do you have at your hotel that's environmentally friendly?
Well, so first of all, we've got all of the basics covered. We have paper straws, switched over to reducing single-use plastic as much as possible when we serve our drinks. For example, we have prepared our own syrups, our own bitters that we store in these reusable bottles.
So then you just sanitize it and
Yes.
put your bitters and syrups in there.
Yeah, we just funnel the juices, everything.
The hotel is in the process of changing its toiletries to non-plastic items.
We've replaced a lot of the packaging with paper boxes. We also have our toothbrush sets that we've already switched over to bamboo instead of plastic. We have a bamboo handle rather than plastic.
I think this is the first time I've seen this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we have our combs that are already switched to wooden, but for sanitary purposes, we do have them in a plastic wrapping now, but we're hoping to find another solution where we can have paper packaging potentially to protect the combs without having to use plastic.
So you're still looking for it?
Yeah.
And what about those cotton pads over there? It's still plastic as well.
So with cotton pads and Q-tips, obviously the main thing is with the Q-tip, it's usually plastic. So we have found some alternatives where it's either bamboo or paper that we're looking into implementing.
Wow. What about these big bottles of shampoo and conditioner here? That's still plastic.
Yeah, so the difference is that these are actually reusable plastic bottles. When we refill them, we can save that piece of plastic from going into the landfill every time.
Since 2013, the hotel provides room guests with water from reusable glass bottles instead of plastic bottles. Stephanie says the hotel has saved 6 million plastic bottles from the landfill. About 2,300 tons of plastic waste were disposed of in the landfills every day in 2021. Under the government proposal in the first phase, hotels would be banned from distributing disposable plastic toiletries, including plastic bottled water, for free. It's taken this hotel more than 10 years to gradually eliminate single-use plastics. Stephanie thinks other businesses will have to quickly adopt plastic alternatives to fulfill the new regulation.
Everyone is learning a lot more about single-use plastic, its effect on the planet, and all of the different options and things that a business can do to address these problems. I believe that it will be a learning curve for the industry, but it's definitely doable.
When we return, local beer makers are also making a comeback. Stay with us. Welcome back to Pearl Magazine. As those in the food and beverage trade emerged from the dark cloud of COVID, restaurants and bars are toasting the return of customers. Local beer makers are also making a comeback, especially those supplying craft beer. These Hong Kong companies are looking for ways to expand the relatively low market share.
Hong Kong is Bay, remember that.
In mid-May, this leading Asian food and hospitality trade show attracted 1,200 exhibitors, including Asia's craft beer trade. The biennial Hong Kong International Beer Awards also took place here, drawing craft beer makers from around the world competing for the awards.
After a few years' break, it's finally back.
The winners were awarded by the world-renowned Beer Judge Certification Program, or BJCP. This time, more than 110 types of beers, including craft beers, are listed for the competition. In the end, more than 10 local craft beer makers won awards.
Hong Kong has a more than 10 years history of making craft beer. Most craft beer factories started operations less than 10 years ago, but we know the market very well. There are a lot of choices of craft beers on the market. The judging guidelines are in accordance to the BJCP rules. The scoring system is based on appearance, aroma, flavor, mouthfeel, and the overall impression, as well as the judge's favorite.
Craft beer is a beer made by craft breweries. The microbrewery movement originated in the U.S. The term microbrewery was used as a designation for breweries that produce fewer than 6 million beer barrels. While the four main ingredients in beer are water, malt, hops, and yeast, some craft beer brewers add other ingredients to make their flavor more unique.
Currently, Pale Ale is very popular in Hong Kong. After the plant upgrade, we are now planning to produce something new that is non-alcoholic craft beer. We brew 10,000 liters of beer every week.
Set up in 1995, this microbrewery became Hong Kong's first craft beer factory. Over the past few years, many craft breweries shut down due to COVID-19. Now they are making a comeback.
We invest a total of $5 million, $2 million of which are government subsidies. You can see the machinery at my back. They are purchased between 2019 and 2022. We aim to increase production. Actually, we upgrade the factory, the flooring. We retire the floor, and then we put more money into the machinery. In the past, we only used bottles. Now, we have both cans and bottles beers.
Apart from hardware, the brewery added 5 more brewers to the original 4. It also hired more marketing staff. Alvis says the production of craft beer is higher than pre-COVID.
In the past, we never saw demand exceeding supply. Our production is based on sales over the previous 3 months. When COVID subsides, many bars and pubs reopen. We have more sales channels. Restaurants and bars are our biggest client. We also sell to hotels, supermarkets, and also to the airport VIP lounge.
Aside from breweries, some trading companies have also entered the craft beer business, selling craft beer to local specialty liquor stores, restaurants, and bars.
Because of the government restrictions, everybody was ordering online or going to a shop, bringing to their home, drinking at home, entertaining with their friends at home. So that's how we survived, because most of our sales was going to places which were off-trade. And eventually, once everything opened up, it switched. Our client base changed. It started changing onto on-trade, so more restaurants, cafes, bars.
The company is working with 3 craft breweries, supplying their beers to bars and restaurants. Now it's selling 500 bottles of craft beers to this chain bar. Vinod sees a business opportunity and has hired more salespeople to promote their craft beer in bars and pubs.
To be honest with you, in the beginning, it was very new, so we saw a big spike in the sale. But what happened was somewhere in between, after everybody had tried it, the sales kind of dipped. It dipped a little bit low, and then we had to realize that that's when we had to realize that we had to have a little bit of a strategy. We hired some promotion attendants who could actually push the brand a little bit, convince some of the patrons of the bar that this beer tastes good and it's very different, it's very unique.
In 2008, the SAR government abolished the duties for wine and liquor. Alcohol consumption per capita surged and peaked in 2017, and then gradually came down. But experts in the industry believe there is still room for craft beer to grow because the scale is still smaller than other types of liquor.
Currently, the market share of craft beer is relatively low. It's only 2 to 3%. So we want to increase our market share. Our target is to increase our market share to over 10%, which is similar to the overseas market. Although the consumption of beer, wines, and spirits is gradually decreasing, local consumers tend to opt for quality products. Secondly, the local brewers are getting popular and supported by consumers.
Jason says the cost of making craft beer will be lower as production increases. He says the lower cost means a lower price. Jason believes more consumers will go for craft beer when its price is lowered to the level of mass-produced beer.
Actually, when you enter a supermarket, you will find the price of craft beer is a few times higher than that of a famous beer. So the higher price is the hurdle. However, when the increase of sales of local beer, the cost is getting lower.
Earlier this year, the government introduced the Product Eco-Responsibility Amendment Bill to the Legislative Council. The bill would regulate the sale and free distribution of disposable plastic tableware and other plastic products. We contacted the Environmental Protection Department for more details on the proposed regulation. It replied by email. Why is the government trying to regulate the sale and provision of disposable plastic products? The department says, with the growing concerns over the issue of disposable plastics across the world, the market for reusable tableware or disposable tableware made of non-plastic materials such as paper, softwood, plant fiber, etc. has been developing rapidly in recent years, driving down the prices of such greener alternatives to levels comparable to those of conventional disposable plastic tableware. It continued. Coupled with the increasing plastic-free awareness of the public, it is now considered opportune to put forward the proposed regulation of the use of disposable plastic tableware and other plastic products in Hong Kong to reduce the use of disposable plastics at source, with the view to minimizing the impacts of plastic pollution on the ecological environment and human health, and helping to reduce carbon emissions to mitigate climate change. When would this regulation take effect? The EPD says, subject to the progress of the scrutiny of the relevant amendment bill by the Legislative Council, we propose that the first phase regulation commence 6 months after the passage of the amendment bill in early 2024 at the earliest. What if a business cannot meet these requirements? It replied, under our proposal, any person who contravenes the proposed measures to control disposable plastic tableware and other plastic products commits an offense and is liable to a maximum fine at level 6, that is $100,000. Will there be any grace period before the regulation is enforced? It says, the regulation will take effect 6 months after the passage of the amendment bill to allow the trades and the public sufficient time to get prepared. During this period, we'll step up publicity and public education, as well as maintain close liaison with stakeholders to facilitate their compliance with the new regulation. Would individually plastic-wrapped face masks be covered under the new regulation? It replied, face mask currently is not one of the products to be regulated under the proposed regulation of disposable plastic tableware and other plastic products.
That's our show for this week. Join us on Pearl Magazine, same time next week. Bye for now.